The Supreme Court is expected to hand down more than 24 decisions this month on a series of cases which have the potential to reshape laws that have been in effect for more than a generation. At the same time, the court is continuing its investigation into last month's leak of a draft decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The court's final decision on abortion could come any day. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford joins us now with more on this. Hey, Jan, has anything happened since that leaked draft ruling overturning legal federal abortion rights to indicate what's going to come next?
Well, no. I mean, what's happening inside the court right now is the investigation is ongoing. The court doesn't know who the leaker is. We don't know who the leaker is. And they're continuing to try to get their opinions out. There's a lot of work to do in these last, month to 2 months of any term. And so this has been a huge distraction for the court, the justices, the clerks, obviously. They still have 30 decisions left and, 3 or 4 weeks to get there. So there's just a lot of work to do. That's what's going on inside the court right now. But on that opinion, the draft, of course, was that 5 justices were poised to overturn Roe versus Wade, the landmark decision that guarantees a woman has a constitutional right to an abortion. There's no indication that that lineup of 5 justices has wavered, which means that if it does in fact hold when the final decision comes down, of course, Roe versus Wade, the 1973 case, would be overturned. The states would then be free to set their own policies on abortion.
Just remains seismic, the potential impact of this shift and this ruling. How are some of the states trying to prepare for this?
I think seismic is a good word. And when we saw the draft leak, it came as a shock to a lot of people that the court actually could do this. Now, remember, they were close back in 1992, 1 vote short. So there's been a kind of a campaign over the years from some of the abortion opponents to get to this moment where we are today. What we've seen in response is states. You've seen some of the liberal states try to pass laws that would guarantee abortion access there. And you see the conservative-leaning states passing laws that would restrict abortion access once this decision comes down. Now, more than a dozen states already have those laws on the books, or so-called trigger laws, that would take effect if and when the court ever were to overturn Roe versus Wade. But then you see still other states passing additional restrictions and laws. So we're now looking about potentially 20 states that would have more restrictions on abortion than Roe versus Wade would allow, including a number that would ban it completely.
And then there are those other 30 or so outstanding cases. I know there's a big one coming out of New York State. What are the most notable to you?
I got to say, first off, though, in any term, this case, the case on abortion would overshadow anything, and it wouldn't matter what the other cases were, really. So that's kind of the term we're talking about. But you're right. I mean, there are a number of other cases that in a regular year we would be talking about right now. And the gun rights case out of New York is one of them. It involves a law that's been on the books since 1911. It puts more restrictions on your ability to get a concealed carry permit than most of the other states require. In New York, you have to show you have basically some kind of special need for it and have good moral character. The question is whether that infringes on your Second Amendment rights to own a gun. At argument, the justices seem to suggest that that went a little too far, which would make it easier to get one of those permits to carry guns outside your home in New York. Now, whether or not that's going to hold or not, we don't know. It's hard to predict off oral arguments, but it looks like the court is going to be more protective of those Second Amendment rights. Now, of course, this also comes at a time when gun control, gun laws, that's under increasing scrutiny after the tragedies we saw in Buffalo and in Texas and other places across the country. People point out, however, that this law involving concealed carry permits wouldn't capture some of those kind of incidents we're seeing in the mass shootings because people aren't getting concealed carry permits when they're looking to conduct some of those mass shootings that we're now seeing across the country.
After that draft opinion was released, Jan, we saw 2 things. We saw protests outside justices' homes, and then we saw Congress do something it rarely does, move swiftly to pass extra protection for the court system, for the judges and their families. Have there been any other incidents?
they're under increased security because the threats continue and the threats are real. It's a real concern for the court, for the Supreme Court police officers as they try to ensure that these justices remain safe. You've seen protests, of course, not only at their homes, at the court. The court has now got a fencing completely around the building, streets closed around the building. And the threats are continuing to come into the Supreme Court. It's a concern, and they're taking that very seriously. And you're right. I mean, Congress also responding rapidly and seriously.
Jan Crawford, we're in the home stretch, but it's a busy, intense home stretch. Thank you so much.
Thanks.